Hi, I'm Jeff Sanford. Welcome to the Canadian Business Outlook 2009. With us is the Right Honourable Paul Martin, Canada's former Prime Minister. Mr. Martin, we're at an amazing time. It's a historically significant period in the history of the world. It'd be interesting to hear your take on the events of the last year.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt we're going through a very tough period. The simple fact that the U.S. consumer, who has been for the last 25 years the buyer of last resort, is tapped out, and that Asian consumers are not yet at a position where they can replace them is really causing a fundamental shift. I think that there are a couple of things, however, that are going to have to be done before we're going to start to see the proverbial light at the end of the tunnel. Number one, the major economies are really going to have to come to the grips in reality, not just paying lip service to working together. That has not yet happened. And I really hope that the G20 is able to be the focus for that to happen. And the second thing is that the banks are going to have to start lending again. Not in Canada, but in Europe and in the United States. And my own view is that this whole question of good banks, bad banks are going to have to be settled. It does not appear to me that there's going to be much bank lending until really the good bank, bad bank issue has been dealt with.
You also talked about the need to revamp or redo our global governance system. We really need to address global systemic financial risk. Can you talk to me about some of the measures you think are important, and what role can Canada play in that?
Well, first of all, I think that supporting the G20 is absolutely crucial. It is the new G8. It's the new steering committee. Everybody is at the table. But whether it's going to play a dynamic role or not remains to be seen. And I think that this is so important for Canada. This is our ability to punch above our weight. I think it's very important that the Canadian government stop hanging back. The current government was against the G20. Well, the G20 now exists. Now the current government should get behind it and make it really work. Not just at the official level, where a lot's going on, but at the political level. Then the second thing I think we've got to deal with, really the failure of regulation. I don't believe in a single global regulator. Nobody can regulate a national economy the way a national regulator can. But we've got to recognize that there are limits. National regulation can't fill the gaps in the global system. So we have to have an overall monitoring system that can ensure national regulation is working. A lot of countries resist it. I believe it's an idea whose time has come.
That's great. You mentioned there's some Canadians playing a role in the lead-up to the meetings coming up. What are they doing? What are Canadians doing?
There are a number of working groups that have been established, and Canadians, especially in the area of regulation, are really, we are providing an awful lot of the driving force, and I think we should be very proud of them. But that's at the official level.
Right.
We have to have, the G20 was a Canadian initiative. I was the first president of the G20. There are Canadian think tanks that have been out pushing it. The Canadian government has been a very reluctant participant. I think now they've got to put that behind them and become a leader.
You had a big announcement, a really interesting announcement, I thought, and that's the creation of this $50 million private equity fund. It's going to benefit the Canadian Aboriginal community. Can you talk to me about the importance of social return in this sector?
Well, essentially, the basis of anybody's economy is entrepreneurship. And the basis of entrepreneurship is mentoring people who are able to learn a business. The problem is that Aboriginal Canadians, who are the youngest, the fastest growing segment of our population, really haven't had access at that kind of mentoring. They haven't had access to capital to start a business, and they haven't really, therefore, been able to develop the entrepreneurs that they should. There are some, but not nearly enough. So I went to a number of the most progressive, large Canadian companies, and I must say I'm so proud of that. I put the problem to them, and they said, we agree, and we want to play a role. They put their money up towards the raising of the fund, and they said, we really want to be involved. I've got to tell you, the Canadian business looks very, very good in this area. They really are prepared to play a leadership role, and I think that the fund now exists is a tribute to them.
It's just been an area that's really been overlooked in Canada, hasn't it? It's almost shameful, I would say.
Yes, it is. And that's why really, the degree of responsibility and progressiveness that a company shows, when they show it, as these companies have done, can just make the difference between night and day.
Well, great. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you taking a few minutes out today. It's been great. Thanks.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's been Jeff Sanford. We're here at the Canadian Business Outlook in 2009.